Hey guys, FilthyRobot back here with Arumba, doing the second part of our TacTeam Civilization 6, playing as America. So, what do you think? Should we do turn 2 today?
Well, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different things we could talk about. We could talk about movement. We could talk about governments and policies and that kind of stuff. I mean, we could probably spend another 20 minutes without actually playing.
Yeah, episode 4, episode 5, we finally build something.
No, I think people might get a little bit upset in that case. But so what do you want to do? You want to? I mean, let's just play. Why don't we build some units? Why don't we do some stuff,
So
research that kind
let's talk build orders though, because I think that is something that's worth discussing in the very early game. We discussed a little bit about settling. Let's discuss a little bit about build orders. What do you find is working for you?
I have not played enough Civ 6 to have like memorized build orders, but I can tell you from my experience playing as Rome that I tried something different, right? So here I am going into the movement system, but it's different, right? It's different from Civ 6, sorry, Civ 5. So I found that, okay, scouts will get 3 movement, and every other basic unit that you can build right now has 2 movement. And I thought, well, it's only 50% more, and they're really bad at combat, so I'll just scout with warriors or slingers instead. And that went really poorly. I didn't find any other civs. I didn't find any other nations for a long time, and there's a bunch of eureka moments you miss out on, and you miss out on all of the bonus diplomats you can get for being the first person to discover a city-state.
Yeah, those
So
are really good too.
yeah, I mean, because you get the bonus, right? You get like faith or culture or whatever it is just from meeting them. It's awesome.
Bonus is
But
nuts in the early game too. I've found very similar that for me, I'm always tempted to build that monument. My goal in the early game, my entire early game civics tree teching is basically to rush political philosophy to get those extra civics cards, to get those extra bonuses on the empire. And I'm always tempted to pick up that monument. It's one of the reasons why I love playing Rome. You get that free monument. But at the moment, I'm absolutely with you that you just gotta get out and see the world as soon as possible. The goody huts are too strong, the little tribal villages, and meeting city states is just really strong if you can get to them first. So
yeah. And also, don't forget that we're playing as America, so getting that political philosophy out really quickly and getting the legacy bonuses being built up faster is going to be
yeah.
significant.
Yeah, so it would argue for some early monument stuff, but I think I'm with you. Let's grab that scout. So rough early game with our warrior. The warrior doesn't want to go. I've been doing 2 things with the warrior, one of 2 things anyways. The first is that I like having him around to protect my tile improvements. So in the early game I do some scouting with him, but I try not to send him too far. I often have him come back eventually. Then I try to keep him to the open terrain where he can scout faster. He's very, very slow through this type of terrain. He gets almost no actual movement bonuses or no actual vision bonuses or anything in this stuff. So scouts to the rough terrain, warriors to the open terrain is kind of general just principle for me. What have you been
Makes
doing
sense.
tech-wise? Anything?
We talked about this last night. I think it's a really weird balance in Civ 6, though, where I usually try to choose research that doesn't have a boost, and then I change it as soon as I can to another one if I'm thinking I'm going to get a boost. And it feels kind of weird because it's like, I want this, and so I won't research it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. I'm doing that a lot too. Thankfully, the first 3 are pretty easy because there's no eureka moments with the first 3 techs, so all 3 of these potentially could be queued up. I'm not planning on doing this exactly, but all of them are going to be useful. For us, there is a camp improvement for based on terrain for the deer, but it's only 1 gold. I'm not overly thrilled with that. We have an animal husbandry, I guess animal husbandry as well for camp and pasture. Pasture improvement in the cattle is quite nice, actually. It's a 1 production early game. We are going to want irrigation a little bit later for tobacco to get that online as our luxury resource. And mining, of course, is always great for Grassland Hills. We've already talked a little bit about how much I value Grassland Hills. So my rough rule of thumb is I'm going to want early military units to deal with barbs and at least 1 to 2 of these techs before those early military units. So just judging on what I have, I'd love to get that cattle improved. I would love to get irrigation at some point. So maybe something like this, just to start with the idea of heading to archery relatively quickly afterwards.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hey, you're in the driver's seat.
All right, let's do
Whatever
it.
you want to do. You're the expert.
Oh, okay, we're playing it that way. All right.
Well, you are. I mean, even in Civ 6, you've got 100 hours. I've probably got maybe 5.
Okay.
So you've definitely got some more experience.
All right, first tribal village. If you can't see them, which I can't, I can see them now, but the first probably 3 games I played, they're just invisible to me. They looked enough similar to the other backgrounds that I just couldn't see them, but that audio notification is super useful for figuring that out. So,
Yeah.
shoot over, grab our tribal village as soon as we can.
Have you ever used the strategic map view?
Not particularly. Does it show? Oh, look, wow, it's nice and visible there. It's nice.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a shortcut key for the strategic view as well. I can't remember what it is though.
Is it the same as Civ 5? Because it's F10 if it's Civ 5, but it might not be.
Sounds right. Maybe F10, F12, something like that. I can't recall.
One of these is quick save, quick load though, which did not exist.
It's F6, F7, I think. Don't no F5, F6. Don't touch those. F7, F8. I don't like how they did this, by the way. If I can get on my little complaint, I'm usually allowed 1 complaint per video.
Is that the limit? Okay.
Yeah, because otherwise I'll complain too much. They've done this weird thing where you've got F1 through like F12 are bound to useful keys, and then right in the middle are these danger keys where you could just accidentally reload an old save. Like, why would you do that? Please don't do that.
I'm sure those will be customizable hotkeys at some point, but I'm the same issue. But that's pretty cool though, because I've definitely struggled with seeing these, so it's nice to be able to see that visually there. And I don't know what the toggle is for that, but we can very easily check, I suppose. Let's go take a quick look at, what is it, key bindings. And we're looking for strategic view. Shout if you see it first.
I don't. Maybe I'm wrong. It looks like maybe there isn't one. Yeah, nope, there isn't one.
Yeah, I'm expecting actually an increase in the number of bound keys at some point. Hopefully. No like press releases or anything, but I'm just expecting. All right, let's move on. So I guess we could talk very briefly about the tile stuff. The governor is a lot better than it was in Civ 5, especially when you have the multiple ways of telling it what to grow to. I'm still locking citizens right now, but I'm not doing it necessarily every turn, maybe every couple turns when I look through. And my value at the early game is 2 hammers over 3 food right now. Like the 2-2 tile just feels better to me. If we get those scouts out as soon as possible. The timing's really important on the scout stuff. So, anyways.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, 4 is better than 3, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if you look at it that way, 4 is better than 3, it's true. I'd hate this. This is a kind of terrible boost for us. Writing is such an easy one to get, so it's just a wasted Eureka, essentially. But, you know, not the end of the world.
Literally unplayable. Restart.
Right. We're going to lose now.
Against these princes.
I guess this is worth talking about some movement stuff here. I don't know how much we're teaching and how much we're just playing, but if we're doing a little bit of teaching, then perhaps we look at the movement. So this is a river here. River takes 3 tiles to move, 3 movement to move across is what it takes for a river. So the warrior only has 2 movement. He uses 1 to move into this open terrain tile here, this flat grassland. He can't cross the river because he doesn't have any movement left this turn. That's very different than Civ 5, where you could always enter tiles so long as you had some remaining movement.
Right, and it was especially important with like roads where you could actually have half points of movement, and you could still cross a river into mountains, or not mountains, but like cross a river into hill if you have a half movement point.
No such luck. The only thing you can do here with like quarter movement points and half movement points, you can still assign promotions, but much else. All right, I again would keep this. You know, we could go wherever on this. I guess if we're just trying to min-max scouting, I would stay to open land with the warrior, just to keep scouting stuff that he gets a lot of visibility and a lot of movement in, so he can maybe pick us some more stuff. I guess we could look for edge of the map, but I'm not sure. Does it limit us? It'll limit us a little bit. Did it in Civ 5 too. You can't just like scroll to the edge and see where you are in the map, so that's probably good.
Yeah, I'm noticing a ton of floodplains down there, which makes me immediately think of the first Pantheon. I like the Pantheon that gives you +1 production in Marsh.
I've yet to have the time to use it, but this would be a beautiful time to use it. I mean, imagine how good these tiles becoming 3-1 tiles are a really powerful tile. That mix of growth and production would be super good. I like that as a Pantheon idea. Yeah.
Now, do you ever settle on a desert tile just to make it a better tile?
Yeah, I think that's a totally reasonable thing to do. For settling.
I find this interesting too. I find it strange that like there's no movement penalty for moving through desert. It's flat. It's 1 movement cost. Seems to me like a desert should be difficult to cross. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the terrain's pretty slow. I'm kind of glad we don't need any more movement penalties for that. But yeah, I hear you. It's kind of weird that is the decision, or that's the. So I'm gonna send the scout out and around again. Early game. Here we have another decision, by the way. We have a decision between monument and scout. I'm gonna go second scout. Just my habit here at the moment is double scout openers if I can. The monument's nice, but just. It feels better to get access to those goodie huts as soon as possible, as many as possible in finding the city-states. And I can't wait till we actually meet a couple of city-states in this game, because I think the early game bonuses inherent to the city-states right now are so much better than they ever were in Civilization 5. So much more powerful for your Civ.
Yep. Plus, we're also playing on a large map, so we might as well.
Yep.
Here's another minor complaint. I've already done one this episode, but I'm going to do another one because I didn't do one in the first episode. So have you noticed that when you if you were to tell your warrior to go home to Washington, the next turn, it's just going to ignore that unit. And if you select him, there's no visual indicator whatsoever that he's got a path or how many turns it'll take him to get there or, anything. You can't tell at all where they're going. And I'm hoping that's just part of the review build and we see something else, maybe a mod. I don't know what, but I don't know how that's not in there.
I think it is a very clever thing from a PR standpoint to give you a review build and say everything is subject to change, because it makes it very difficult to actually craft criticisms, because one of the immediate responses to the criticism is, oh, it's a review build, that won't be there in the review build. So I do hope that you're right. I hope that you're accurate in the sense that it will be addressed. I hadn't noticed that because I'm so generally unthrilled with the pathing in these and Civ 5 and Civ 6 both that I tend not to allow my units to do multiple turns of movement on their own. Because I just don't trust they'll get there. If a barb gets in the way or a city-state unit gets in the way, they path all the way around it rather than prompting you for action again. So things like that can be a little frustrating. This is I think this is another player. Is it the double borders when it's like two colors? It's a different player, whereas it's just one color city-state. I'm not sure if that's right or not.
I think that's.
By the grace of
God, okay.
Victoria.
I know that it'll tell you whether or not there is a open borders policy based on whether or not it's a dashed line or a solid line. But
oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So that determines that. That's interesting.
Aha! See, I knew something that he didn't. Awesome.
I expect lots of that. We're learning the game. I'm hoping for that.
Wrap the series up here. We're done.
And I'll go home, huh? All right. Love the sample house style. Do we get a look at that? This is pretty close to us, unfortunately. That's a bit of a bummer.
Do let me know if I start talking over a lot of like background like speeches that they're making. Let me know because I can't actually hear it. I can see that she's talking, but I don't care.
I skipped through those habitually already.
She's a bit frumpy, so you know.
All right, so we met another player. Their land looks terrible. It's all flat with like no production. I'm not expecting that to be any sort of threat at all throughout the game. And other thing we did is we've grown. We don't get the little indicator. I really liked this, and I actually liked it in the base game of Civ 5, which gives you an indicator up to, I think, 4 pop or 5 pop. And then if you get EUI, it'll give you an indicator every time your city grows. I want to micromanage my citizens. And we've grown, and it's grown to it looks like it took a 2-2 tile over a 3-1 tile. So that's interesting. That might answer your question when you have it both focused. But I actually prefer a 3-1 tile here for a little bit more growth. So.
I have an idea for why it's done that. I think the way that the algorithm is going to work here is notice how if you look at right above where it says Washington, you've got 6 and 7.3. Somehow you have some sort of a multiplier on your actual production. You have 7.3 versus 6. So I think what's happening is it's prioritizing the production over the food because you have a multiplier on your production.
That's
and you don't.
Too. If you look at this too, we know where the multiplier comes from. The multiplier comes from amenities. So you get right now with this level of happiness on amenity, we get a 5% to non-food yields, but no bonus towards food yield. The bonus is citizen growth, but not food yields, and it gives all non-food yields. So that's why that's higher. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Neat.
Yeah. So that must be, it's if you prioritize them all equally, it must just be counting the total amount of production, whether it's food or anything else. It doesn't care. It's just X is bigger than Y, and therefore that's what we work.
Yeah, and for every other resource pair, so if we took, for example, production and science, because they get that same modifier, it would be exactly equal. But it's only food that's going to be different because it's the only one that doesn't get the 5% modifier from amenities.
So you'd keep working these tiles, though, right? You wouldn't go to the...
I'd grab that one. The difference in growth now is between 7 and 5, and it's still giving me both of the yields I care about. I'd probably grab that one for now.
Right. That's actually kind of maybe backwards from what we would really want, because the 10% growth is still applying to the food. It's just not showing there.
Yeah, and it's bigger, right? It's a bigger yield.
Yeah, it's 10% versus 5%.
Yeah. Good to know. So, I mean, there's been a couple other reasons why I don't trust it just to make all of its own decisions based on that. But this is the general rule of thumb I'm using is prioritize those two.
Right, but also you're the kind of guy who can beat deity AI, and so you need to have every advantage possible. For the average player, I'd say you're probably fine to just click the 2 buttons and call it good.
Yeah, and just maybe every so many turns, go take a look at it and make sure your city isn't not growing anymore. Because that is the one downside I've found with prioritizing food and hammers equally. At some point, you may reach a point where you really want that city to grow, and it's not optimal from a hammers and food maximizing perspective to do that, but you need it to keep growing, and it will stop growing. So, only other thing that's it.
I noticed you haven't actually tried to take the upgrade on your warrior yet. Yes. Are you waiting for something in particular?
Absolutely. So I don't really care too much about these warriors promotions across the course of the game. It's not very relevant to anything we want to do in the early game. The very early game, I want to min-max the number of tribal villages I can find. So if I get to a position like maybe where I'm about to, let's say I wanted to go east here and I move to this tile and I can't cross the river because I have 1 action left, that would be a great time to sign a promotion because that means it doesn't waste part of my turn. The thing with signing promotion is once you sign the promotion, it ends the unit's turn and it can't do anything after that. So last turn, in case this had been a city-state, I think the double border means for sure it was a player, but we weren't entirely sure doing that. I wanted to meet that city-state a turn earlier, and if I had promoted, I might not have gotten range to do that. That was the thought process for that. So I've been doing that a lot. I actually find it particularly hard in the middle of combat to ever assign promotions unless you need it for the insta heal, because most times it's still better for like a 75% hit point archer to take a shot than to skip a turn to get a promotion to take a stronger shot next turn, because the 2 shots just add more damage than that 1 shot for that time.
Yeah.
So
right, unless he's under like half health, in which case it would make more sense because you get the full 50 heal and
yeah, exactly. So most of the time I'm finding it really hard to find the time, especially in any sort of contested situation, to actually bother assigning promotions. So. All right, more scouting. Let's go east. We just found a new continent. Have you noticed this yet? So continent view. This is a new continent.
Shortcut key 2. Yeah. Why is it a new continent there? It's just a special mountain.
That's right. That mountain, new continent. And our scout knew it. Before writing, before anything, he could sense that fucker. So yeah.
This one looks different.
Something special about that mountain. All right. What do you think, Warrior? East or west here? This is relatively flat land, and we're thinking about putting a settlement over here, and I'd really like to avoid sending a scout there. So there is some argument for let's get a look down here, think about where that city's going to go. There's also an argument this is also flat land up to the northwest. It's possible we're here before their scout is there. So if their scout is going east, south, or west, we could potentially get access to tribal villages really close to their capital, which would be nice to steal. So I could see benefits for going either way. What's your thought?
I just would err on the side of caution that you had mentioned at the beginning about how we talked briefly about how barbarians are much harder and how you like to keep the first warrior close to home, and so okay. I would just throw that into the equation. It seems to me like keeping him near Washington might be a smart move.
Okay, then but hey, go ahead and throw a promotion.
I expect you to kill everything.
Oh man. No pressure. All right, so this is a perfect time to assign that promotion. It took us 1 move to get adjacent to the river. I guess we were here. We could have actually just crossed the river. Maybe we shouldn't have, but I was thinking about the promotion now. So 1 move east to assign the promotion for next turn. I don't really like the warrior tree promotions in general because I feel like things like this one and this one are pretty weak. Although this one turned out to be better than I thought it was. Amphibious actually turned out to be quite nice. No movement penalty when moving across rivers is quite nice. So I guess with that in mind, I would probably go Tortoise just to get Amphibious sooner, even though Battle Cry is going to be better versus Barbarians in general. But we're Teddy. We have combat bonuses already. Maybe we just go Tortoise.
Also, and this may be a bug, we were talking about this the other night, that Battle Cry, +7 combat strength versus melee and ranged units, doesn't actually apply when you attack enemy scouts. Apparently a scout is not considered a melee unit. Also, I couldn't seem to get the general, the AoE general bonus to work either. But I was attacking a city. Maybe the bonuses don't apply when you're attacking cities. I'm not sure.
I think we should test that this game. I haven't played around with generals very much because I've been doing my absolute best not to just...
All right, let's do it. Let's get some Sun Tzu action going on. Sounds great.
We could, I mean, London is definitely potentially something we could kill.
Yeah, they said something about cake. Let's go kill him.
Right. They were not who we want. This is really unfortunate for us on the east-mouth path here. Our scout's getting quite unlucky. It's taking full action every single turn to move 1 tile, so we're not getting a lot of tiles covered over there, which is a little bit unfortunate. So.
Yeah, any unit could have moved so far, so him being a scout is completely irrelevant so far.
Yeah, so the scout, I believe the way it works is that supposedly scouts scout your district. They have to be adjacent to a district tile, and then they run back home and summon more barbarians. But I don't know if those barbarians are obligated to go where the scout scouted. So this barbarian scout has showed up next to London and gone east again. He's running home to his camp. He could end up spawning barbs into us because London didn't deal with their scout. So I'm not sure yet. That would be annoying, but it might be. And let's just keep going east. I want to find out where he's going, how close that barb camp is to us, and maybe some more tribal villages down there. It should be great. Go up this way. Yeah, this terrain is really not so great. And you were talking about this yesterday, or we were talking on Skype. We can cross a river for free when it's adjacent, when we're moving through the city as one of those tiles. I think is how that works. So it's kind of weird. So like this is, instead of taking 3 actions to move the cattle, it's just 1. So.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. If you straddle rivers, you can create like little bridges. There is no actual bridge. They're just really good at swimming near the city.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Maybe I grew up in town. That's one of the recreation activities. Who knows? Maybe that's where the amenities are coming from the early games, swimming. I don't know. What are we going to do next? So again, I'm always tempted to pick Monument, but at this point, I'd probably, especially with Barb so close to us, especially with the early archery bonuses, I've been getting so much utility out of Slingers. The only thing we could potentially wait for is there is a discount on military units in the early game, and if we can stall long enough to get this going, that's quite useful. The question is, when do we want Slingers now? Do we go Builder or Slinger here? I've been going Builder, but I could be talking to Slingers.
I like how you ask me questions, but at the same time, I'm hoping you'll teach me.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
We'll
I mean,
use it as a
builder.
learning opportunity. So
Here's my only observation with builders is that like I always felt like when playing Civ 5, I wanted a builder as soon as I possibly could, and I wanted as many tiles improved as I possibly could. But now in Civ 6, it seems like I'll get a builder out, I'll use his 3 builds, and then I'll build another builder, and I'm like, okay, now what? I
Yeah.
feel like there's just not nearly as much stuff that needs to be improved outside of like a couple luxury resources. And so I don't really know. I don't know how to value builders relative to military.
Yeah, and if we look at our capital is pretty low value builder right now because there's a couple problems. What I value the builder for, at least the early builder, is the inspiration moment for craftsmanship. What I want to do is I would like to hit, if I can do it, foreign trade's a pretty easy one to hit, especially on Pangea, but also apparently on continents. Craftsmanship's a very easy one to hit, improve 3 tiles. State workforce, I've had trouble hitting the timings for. Mostly I don't do districts that go heavy units. And population 6, sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't. Political philosophy, the inspiration is meet 3 city-states. I hit that one almost every single time. In other words, getting that builder decreases the amount of time to get to my first, first government. So
I see. That's a great way of looking at it. I hadn't considered that. So, okay, yeah, I mean,
the problem is we don't have good tiles to improve. This is the only thing we really have. Grassland mines are fine, but we already have grassland forests, and that's going to be equal to grassland mines for the very early game. Same with plains. So this might be actually one of those few games where an early builder doesn't do much for us. It would increase the cattle, it would make it another 3-1 tile, but a 3-1 tile is not massively better than a 2-2 tile in the early game. Perhaps for once we actually skip the builder. I mean, the other downside about building units is right now is they're unbonused. We're not getting that 50% production towards them. It would be really nice to take advantage of that in a little bit. What the hell would we build instead? I guess if we're going to do that, if we're going to take that mentality that we were using the builder for boost anyways, boost tiles were going to work and boost the culture by getting the Eureka moment. Perhaps what we do is a monument instead of the builder, since we don't have good tiles to improve in our capital right now, and just try to get the culture boost a different way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, by having the extra culture, you'll be able to knock out the next science-like culture tree thing.
And it is worth talking about, too, quite how much it is, right? I mean, your culture in the capital right now, just from the palace, is 1.7. Monument adds 2. It more than doubles your culture in the early game. So that is the equivalent of getting early monument, is the equivalent of hitting every single boost along the way. The same amount of culture, right?
Right. Okay. Well, hey, this time we got through like 9 turns, so that's pretty good. I'm proud. Are you?
Time's up already? Holy crap! I didn't realize.
Yeah.
It goes quick.
Time flies.
All right.
when you're talking about nothing.
See you guys in a few.